Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the CoDaKrew podcast. This episode is going to be a quick match week reaction to match week 27 of the Premier League. Darian and I plan on alternating with these match week reaction episodes. We're just going to do one. Whoever is available will get that out as soon as possible. But with that said, let us get started with the first match of the match week, Aston Villa versus Leeds. Now, Villa surely felt a bit of relief when they scored that late goal. I know they had some decent chances, and you could very much make a case that they deserved a goal by game's end. Plus, this was a late goal versus Leeds, a team who I'm pretty sure are league worst for conceding goals past the 85th minute, and this was an 88th minute goal from Tammy Abraham. The only problem then was that this late goal only bagged Villa 1 point. From a Villa perspective, this is another home performance that just did not really feel right. A month ago, Villa was one of the most reliable sides in not just in England, but in Europe at home. Now, if Tammy Abraham doesn't bundle this shot in at the end, it is 3 home league losses in 4 games. And the pattern in these games is familiar. Slow tempo, predictable wide play, crosses that don't even beat the first man, and long stretches where this attack just looks very inhibited. Leeds crowd the middle with that back 5 of theirs, and they were aggressively stepping into Morgan Rogers as well. Villa just never really found a clean solution to all that defensive play from Leeds. And without Tielemans and McGinn, especially, because we have talked on this podcast before about how those midfield injuries are really affecting Villa in their ball progression. Without that, everything feels one-paced. Like they have a set tempo, and they really can't adjust much at all. There's no disguise in this Villa build-up. Admittedly, Leeds were not creating much in that first half either, but that's their game plan. They keep games tight for as long as they can. If they're lucky, they score a goal early. Otherwise, they leave it 0-0 and they try and score at the end. And they did score early in this game. By the way, what a strike from Anton Stach for that free kick. But ultimately, by creating and finishing as poorly as they did in that first half, Villa played right into Leeds' hands because they gave them that chance for that early goal. And more importantly, Villa were not doing any scoring of their own. Now, second half, I know Watkins had the offside goal. Onana had a close range chance. But still, it didn't feel ruthless. And Emi Martinez had to bail them out too because he made a save on, I think it was Mecha's header, that if that goes in for 2-0, we're having a very different conversation right now. What saved Villa, I think, was going more direct. Sancho comes on, the delivery improves. Abraham is playing alongside Watkins, and suddenly it's less intricate play, more chaotic, but I think that's really what they needed here. They had a corner, bodies everywhere, and Abraham just happened to react quickest. Again, chaotic. But when Villa are having problems with this like possession-heavy pass around the pitch play style of theirs, because it seems like, oh, maybe the current personnel don't quite work for it, the people who they still have on hand, maybe the players aren't quite up to par. Eventually, you're going to have to switch to this more chaotic style anyways. And it seems like eventually they are able to get a goal doing that. Interestingly enough, Opta, and I'll just pull up this visual here, says that Villa has got the easiest remaining stretch of games in the Premier League, just based off the power rankings of their opponents. But seeing how they've struggled stylistically against these compact physical sides, when they've still got West Ham, Forest away, Burnley away, they've even got Wolves, who on a good day could definitely cause Villa trouble. I mean, they caused Arsenal trouble even, right? That's the concern for them. And honestly, for me, I think at this point, Villa are out of the title race. I officially give up on their admittedly slim title chances, and they too should probably just be focusing on protecting that UCL spot. For Leeds, though, this is another huge point. 2 losses in 14 now. They go to a top 3 side away at home. They'll be disappointed not to win. Definitely disappointed to give up another late goal, but Ampadu was immense, as was Stach. They created some proper good chances in transition. It's a well-deserved point for them, for sure. And if they keep up the form they're on now, it will not be long before we can conclusively put them out of the relegation race. Now, that is going to bring us on to Brentford versus Brighton. After, I think it's 6 league games, 5 or 6 league games without a win. Cup exit to Liverpool. Brighton and Hurtsler obviously needed a win. Maybe they wouldn't expect one here because Brentford has been on pretty good form as of late, but they needed a 3-pointer somewhere. And they got one here, actually, away playing in London. With the atmosphere that's been at the Amex, there's boos from the whole audience. The dressing room seems like it might be lost. So many questions around Hurtsler. Like, could he be the next guy to get sacked after Thomas Frank and Sean Dyche? So what does he do here with all these questions around him and the players? He basically goes old school on these guys. We've got like Danny Welbeck here. We have Dunk at the back. Of course, James Milner in midfield. Gross alongside all of them as well. In this league with like pretty young talents, they played an old lineup and it worked. For the first like 20 minutes, Brighton were sharper. They pinned Brentford in with direct balls. They managed the moments well, pressed aggressively. Brentford are obviously chaos merchants, especially at home. That is like their whole play style. Long throws, corners, scrappy sequences. And Hurtsler, I guess, tried to pick players that he trusted to defend that stuff well. You had Milner also involved with the first big opportunity on the attacking side for Brighton. A good chip to Hinchelwood, I think, was played onto Nottm, and eventually Kelleher broke it up. But they kept making those sorts of pretty good plays, and they were being persistent, and eventually they got the opener. They got a second as well, a bit of a gift, because Nathan Collins made a mess of the ball, and Welbeck just finished it well for goal number 2. But they honestly deserved it. They were playing better that game. And with some of the concerns around their younger players getting injured and underperforming as of late, like Minte, Mitoma, people are always clowning Baleba. The older guys might just give the Seagulls a bit of fresh air. Now, you might wonder, why haven't I said more about Brentford? I mean, I know if I go back to the standings here, Brentford are, after all, 7th place. They're in the European race. I'd like to think that this was a rare day off for them. I mean, prior to this match week, they had 20 points from their last 10 league games, which is the most of any Prem team in that time. I think Arsenal was at 19 in that same time period. But with this match, it was flat. Thiago isolated most of the way through. Midfield also second best most of the time. Ultimately, Brighton was dictating the rhythm for most of this game. Now, one middling game is not going to change my opinion of Brentford like straight away. And again, I'm not expecting this performance to extend much in terms of their form. But at the same time, they are 7th, but Bournemouth are only 2 points behind them. You've got some more pressure now from below for that Conference League spot. Darian and I, in our February league overview video, said we both expect Brentford and Bournemouth to be the main teams that are going to be fighting for that 7th place spot, probably a conference spot. And I think a swap between those two in the table is very much possible. So yeah, fine margins. Brentford have got to watch their step. And as for Brighton, I know Darian said he thinks they'll fall further into the table toward the relegation zone, though to be clear, not like at any risk of actually dropping down. But it's also possible they start a bit of a turnaround here. And hey, they are 34 points to 40, only 6 points behind Brentford. Just saying, with a bit of luck and the Bees having potentially more games like this one, though I personally doubt it, but it is possible, Brighton or someone else in their area of the table could make a push for that same Conference League spot. It's possible. The points are not that far apart. Okay, now we are going to move on to Chelsea versus Burnley. This is an interesting one. Chelsea just like really struggle with the new teams. I'm not sure why. They lost to Sunderland. Fair enough. Lots of people have lost to Sunderland, but then drew Leeds a week ago. Now drew Burnley. You just have to wonder, how are they not killing off some of these games? They scored in the 4th minute. Joao Pedro here. Neto gets in behind. Joao Pedro slides it home. For about an hour after that, this game looked like pretty comfortable for them, all things considered. It should have been anyways, and yet you just have this nagging feeling that something is going to screw them over. And then their 2 Achilles heels show up, basically. Discipline and set pieces. First off, Fofana, second yellow there, completely unnecessary. You're 1-0 up. Burnley aren't creating much, and he just goes through Ward-Prowse late. That is now another red in a season that's been littered with them for Chelsea. We talked about Tottenham's lack of discipline at one point, but in the league, Chelsea has the most red cards. They've got 6. I think Everton is second with 4, and Tottenham has 3. I have this stat here. Yes, so it is 6 red cards and 60 yellow cards for Chelsea. So I think they might be lowest as well in terms of fair play points. yeah, it's kind of questionable for them right now. Whether they all, I know they didn't all come under Rosenior, but there's the pattern here. This team has kept putting itself in vulnerable positions. And once they go down to 10 men, you can feel the shift. They stop trying to control the game, and now they really are just trying to survive it. Rosenier's throwing on extra center backs, tries to load the box with height, but that almost makes it worse. They're just like inviting now deliveries from Ward-Prowse. And if there's one thing you do not want laid on, it is James Ward-Prowse swinging corners at you when you already rank near the bottom of the league for defending set pieces. They haven't conceded the most goals from set pieces. They've only conceded 12, but they have conceded the most XG from set pieces, that being 14. So they ended up adding to the XG count and the goal count quite significantly with this match. Fleming got a header off like practically free, missed marking assignment, and then Brun Larsen almost did the same thing like a minute later. It's not just bad luck on these set pieces. Like clearly they're having systemic trouble, or else they would not be top of this XG conceded table, right? For this Chelsea squad, who are chasing a UCL place right now, having now conceded 17 points at home, down like lots of it down to these set pieces. Game management is a problem here. Talent is not the issue. Controlling these moments is. And until the red cards and set piece lapses stop, it's going to continue to be. And it could be very much a nagging problem that even costs them UCL at some point. As for Burnley, I don't have too much to say. Yeah, it's 4 points from 2 games. They are showing resilience, which is something I have said that they've been able to do this whole season. They really do stay in those games. But to be honest, they're not a great team. They have heart, but they're not great. Palace imploded last week, and Chelsea gave them momentum here. So Burnley were not really driving either of these games. And if Palace and Chelsea have their shit together, maybe it's 0 points from 2 games instead of 4. All that to say, I still think Burnley are getting relegated. I don't think this is the start of something for them. But hey, if they manage some more points versus Brentford and Everton and the guys above them start to struggle, maybe there's something here for them. Okay, next, West Ham versus Bournemouth. Now, in hindsight, though the Hammers would not have known it, this was a real missed opportunity for them. Win here and you are, I think, level with Forest at this point. Yes, you are. You are level. Right on Tottenham's heels, real pressure applied, and for large spells, West Ham did everything right in this game. Everything except score, basically. They come flying out. 4 shots in the opening 6 minutes. Disasi basically has 2 in the same sequence. Somerville gets 1, and like within minutes, they have racked up 1.0 XG. It's this shot right here. He gets this header off, 0.75 XG on target. It was well finished. Dan gets like a follow-up, but unfortunately that goes pretty well off target. I mean, like this team was playing with urgency, and you'd hope for that, right? Because they are in the drop zone and they're trying to claw their way out. No time for cagey football here. Somerville especially looked sharp again. That was great. And across the game, like the numbers back it up. They had 20 shots. They had 3.27 XG, according to SofaScore here, which I think is actually a Premier League record now for a team that got a certain amount of XG without scoring a goal. Kind of sad, given that any of those shots hit, like they are now maybe not out of the drop zone based on GD, but they'd be a lot better off. Yeah, they'd be a bit behind still on goal difference, but they'd be tied. That would have been a damn big deal for them. A lot of times, though, the thing is they had those chances, but they just did not keep up their end of the bargain when it came to like scoring. Like I said, Disasi missed that second chance pretty significantly. He could have done a lot better with the follow-up. I think there was like a similar there was a shot as well from Bowen that kind of like blazed over the bar as well, just like Disasi's shot. That shot from Bowen was in stoppage time, so it's like it practically started and ended the same way. It's not all bad for West Ham. Like clearly they can create. We see this when we're looking at these stats, and we see that they made this much XG, this many big chances, had this many shots. Defensively, too, they look more solid now. They have 2 clean sheets in 3. Disasi has clearly added some authority at the back. But you have to wonder, have they left too many points on the table in games like this? Because I think there have been instances of this before. Certainly not to this extent, where it's literally setting a league record for most XG without scoring. But yeah, it's maybe not just an issue limited to this one game. As for Bournemouth, they had a worse performance than West Ham did, especially in the first half. They couldn't handle the early set piece pressure, gave away cheap fouls, struggled to get into the box. Iraola looked very frustrated, and rightfully so. But they did manage to survive through the game. Petrovic was big, especially early. Again, dealing with Disasi, and then like a pretty good shot as well from Somerville after that. And if Bournemouth had gone down 1-0 inside 5 minutes, the game would probably snowball, seeing as West Ham were able to make so many chances. Instead, Bournemouth stay in it, and Bournemouth are one of those teams where if you let them hang around, they will make things messy. Second half, they showed more of the identity that you would expect from them: win balls, break, attack space, at pace. Ryan helped that along once Christie came on and the game opened up a bit more. It became more transition heavy, more chaotic. That's Bournemouth's tempo, basically. They didn't create a big chance in the numbers sense, as you can see here, but they absolutely made it uncomfortable for West Ham. Ultimately, though, that is their big failure, that they created very little, got outshot. Defensively, yeah, they adjusted well. First half, they were being pinned. Second half, they were much better at managing West Ham's deliveries. But again, this is Bournemouth. You expect Bournemouth under Iraola to score. That's what they've been doing for most of this season. Certainly when at the start of the season, they were like second in the league for a little bit behind Arsenal. That is what they were doing. They were scoring. But I think they'll still take it as a solid away point that keeps their unbeaten run ticking for now. Whereas for West Ham, given this XG tally, it is definitely 2 points dropped. And in May, if they go down by just a point or two, this is the game you circle, not because they were bad, but because they were good enough to win, and they didn't. Yeah. Moving on to Man City and Newcastle. We've said a few times before that City have a problem with attacking inconsistency. Not as a team, of course. They do score consistently as a team, but the individual players are inconsistent. Like if Haaland is doing well, Foden's not. If Foden's doing well, Cherky's not, etc., etc. Lots of great attackers here, but they don't all do well together. But they might not need to, because often there is someone on the team who can step up and put in a match-winning performance if everyone else is underperforming. Sometimes it's Haaland, sometimes it's Foden, sometimes it's Cherky. In this case, it was Nico O'Reilly, usually a left back, basically playing as a winger here. And damn, he was good. He hit those pressing triggers at all the right points. It's like he was playing a rhythm game, and every note he's hitting with perfect timing. Again, pressing triggers, timing of his runs, confidence in his shots, hitting that first one from range in the 14th minute. He was great. It was a great performance, and he was giving this team so much energy, this Man City team, which was important because that first half hour or so of the game was very tense. It was very back and forth. You can kind of see it in the momentum here. Graphs kind of going back and forth. If I check the first half statistics as well, that is where a lot of the XG is coming from as well. And that's two big chances for Man City, which I think are just O'Reilly's two chances, and he finishes those both quite well. I will say as well, defensively, Man City were pretty well disciplined. Newcastle only generated 0.6 XG or so, 0.62 over the whole game. Outside of Barnes' late effort and also that disallowed header for Burn, they did not create sustained pressure. So, like, even Haaland was putting in some good clearances, I remember, in the first half. City's backline was really doing its job. As for Newcastle, I mean, I thought it was a brave performance. Howe did not sit off. He went man for man, pressed high, let Burn track Haaland everywhere. Of course, that's risky at the Etihad, because if you miss one duel, City can slice right through you. And that is basically what happened on both O'Reilly goals. He's the free man, untracked, too much space, and he scores them both. But Newcastle caused problems too. Of course, they were not creating as much as City here. I wouldn't really expect that of them. Certainly not playing away. But Gordon, Alanga, Willock running into space behind that high line. Some chaotic energy there that Newcastle was at times able to take advantage of. Again, you just hope that they would be more clinical with those opportunities. Admittedly, they didn't create much anyway, so that could also be improved. I know there was the Burn header as well, where people were saying he got pushed offside. It didn't seem that bad to me, but yeah, if that goal worked out for them, they could have held on for a draw, maybe even tried for a win. Ultimately, though, I think that final third precision could have been improved a lot for Newcastle. They went toe-to-toe physically, but they didn't quite have the clean execution when it mattered. And again, chance creation could also be improved as well. But you don't expect to get many chances against Man City at the Etihad anyways. So, like, you have to take advantage of what you get, basically, in this kind of match. So where does this leave things? For City, this is massive psychologically. They've eaten into this 9-point gap, and if they win their game in hand, they will be 2 points behind Arsenal. They've got some dominant performances, some gritty ones, like this game, really, but I'd say it's a pretty strong title charge all around. For Newcastle, it is a third loss in 4, or even fourth loss in 5 in the league. But it didn't feel that bad to me, honestly. Like, it felt competitive at least. It just seems like this team has trouble finding a lead or even just an equalizer from all their efforts. A real poor record as of late with some close losses, but close losses are still losses, right? And so now they're stuck in 11th, just ahead of their derby rival Sunderland. Maybe we'll see, because these two teams are both kind of on poor form right now. If one of them manages to push ahead, maybe try for that European race as well. They can go for 7th place with Brentford and Bournemouth and the rest. But yeah, Newcastle can be competitive, but just being competitive is not going to guarantee you anything in these games. So all I can really say is they have to be more clinical. Yeah. On to Liverpool. Liverpool and Nottingham. Okay. I've seen a lot of people who are calling this game a heist, and given that it was a late winner after we did jack shit for the first half, normally I'd agree. Here's the thing, though. I found this one comment on r/soccer after the game. I'm going to see, actually, if I can pull a screenshot of this up real quick. Let's see, can I get this? Yes, there we go. It is. It says basically Forrest got more and more shit as the game went on, and we maintained our shittiness throughout the game. We as in Liverpool, and I could not agree more. First half was brutal. We were basically playing hot potato with the ball. We just could not hold on to it. Something we have seen actually in other games, like that one game where we lost real late to Chelsea, or Tottenham more recently. After their 2 red cards, they somehow got more of the ball from us. And in this game, Salah, Gakpo, Jones, all of them were just breaking down our own attacks, Salah especially. 5 or 6 1v1s and nothing clean from any of them. No width, no defender that was truly pinned down, no defensive work from these players to compensate. When your wingers don't stretch the pitch, everything collapses inward, and so then that kills the midfield. McAllister and Grav were looking a bit overwhelmed, touches a bit too loose, passes underhit or overhit. Half-second delay in decision-making. It might not seem like much, but it's happening over the whole game, and this is detrimental. So then your build-up depends entirely on a guy like Szoboszlai finding something out of nothing. That's been a lot of our games, really, is we have to rely on Sobo because he's just so energetic in the midfield. Except he's not even in the midfield right now. He's been slotted into right back. That's not doing us any favors. And I think when I've complained obviously about our defenders before, Van Dijk and Konate, and I do think this is a big issue, our back line. But part of the reason as well why they're so exposed is not really up to them. It's also that the midfield has just not been able to consistently control tempo in any of our games. Again, this buildup is depending so entirely on literally just Sobo. I'm completely serious. It's just Szoboszlai bringing his energy to the midfield. And if he's not even in the midfield, that's it's only going to make it even harder for us to try and progress the ball. And so our play is naturally becoming pretty fragile and we're losing possession constantly. Here's the difference from other weeks, though, I will say. The subs really changed the energy for the better. Chiesa and Rio Ngamoa came on, and suddenly there was intent, direct running, actual willingness to attack the box. And Ngamoa's few minutes probably created more genuine chaos than Salah did all game. Seriously, if Salah keeps this up, the best thing we can do, I think, is just to bench him again and switch between Chiesa and Ngamoa and bring him on occasionally as well. And the fullbacks also went earlier with crosses. Stop the endless recycling, force Nottingham to defend actually facing their own goal. We didn't suddenly dominate this game. I know the attack momentum might say otherwise on here, but I would actually say it wasn't really super great play from us either. But it's just like I said, the Reddit comments said, they really had a downslide, Nottingham, throughout this game. They were just a lot better in the first half, and we were kind of just consistently bad. And they went from meh to like shit throughout the 90 minutes. Anyways, as for Forest, I think they just were not as good as some people have made them out to be. The first 20 minutes or so, yeah, they looked sharper than us. 1 second balls broke into space quickly, forced our midfield into some very rush touches. But even during that spell, they weren't like carving us open. The threat was transitional. There were some good moments, no like big waves of pressure. Again, attack momentum graph, I kind of have to discredit it here just because like it'll look like it was continuous just because we genuinely did nothing that first half. But Nottingham were also kind of stumbling over themselves at the same time. And again, Forest eventually faded. As the game wore on, their energy dropped, press got slower. They did not adapt once we started making changes, crossing earlier, pushing our guys higher. They basically retreated instead of trying to regain control. Chalk it up to like their worse bench depth than ours or something else. But Forest, they couldn't take advantage when we were vulnerable and when they had the energy, and they couldn't keep up that same energy level later. So no, I don't think this was some smash and grab against a dominant Forest performance. It's not like the smash and grab we had against PSG in the UCL last season. That was like a terrible game that was just saved by a very late goal at the end. And this one was saved by a late goal, but it was not as bad as that. We were bad for long stretches here, but Forest just did not capitalize. So they've got to take some of the blame as well. And though I don't have many great takeaways for either team with this game, I am just at least happy that we were resilient enough to come away with the 3 points here. So for now, at least, we are level with Chelsea. Now, moving on to Palace versus Wolves. After Palace's bungling of their last game against Burnley, this one was hardly any more cathartic. It was tense, scrappy, and basically, like with this Gesson 90-minute goal, rescued at like the last possible second. Given the context of this game, I think it might have been 1 win in 15 across like all comps for Palace before this. Stadium atmosphere was not great. You could rarely feel the anxiety inside Selhurst Park, and the performance matched it because Palace were super disjointed in that first half. Pino wasted a good chance given to him by Mascara. He hit the post from a corner. And then Wharton gives away a penalty. Luckily, Henderson didn't have that much of an issue saving. I think it was Arokadare who took the pen. But without that save, they might have started spiraling even earlier than they did in the Burnley match. Even after the red card, Palace did not exactly seize control. Against 10 men, the build-up was pretty predictable. Lacked incision. Hughes and Wharton struggled to really speed the tempo up. Too often it became hopeful deliveries. And like it took Glasner basically taking this back three that he had here and just abandoning, throwing on Gesson to finally inject some urgency into the team. And then they managed to score toward the end. Mitchell's cutback, simple finish, 90th minute, right? Not a brilliant goal by any means, but they finally got the relief at the very end. So, like, just to be clear, I don't think this game has shown Palace fixing any of their deeper issues. The attack still lacks fluency. Their confidence is still fragile. But again, it's like some relief for them after this long stretch having as much trouble as they've been having. And maybe they might have had some small nagging worries that if shit gets really bad, they could get into the relegation race. I would personally highly doubt it, but I could see that could get into the players and the fans' heads with how poorly they've been doing. So this is good. I just still think it's going to be a while before they can properly control their games. And Wolves, I mean, I won't say too much on them, but they will feel that this game slipped for them because before the red, I'd say they were arguably the better side. More shots on target, more time in Palace's final third. Mane and Andre were bringing the energy. Bellegarde was sharp between the lines. It was generally pretty good. And it's just that they had that penalty, which was the moment for them, and they fucked that up. And it's often the case for this team. Like, they didn't take that chance. 5 straight penalty misses now from what I've seen from Arokadare in like all competitions. He doesn't take that many pens, but still, maybe questionable that you give it to him. Anyways, like they still, even after that pen, looked like they could put up a bit of a fight, and then Krejci sees red. Even still, they don't completely collapse, but it's like you're not going to win the game at that point. This is Wolves on 10 men. and Palace was ultimately able to force the goal late. So it's unfortunate. I mean, relegation is basically confirmed for these guys at this point, like all but confirmed. And they have shown more energy under Rob Edwards, but it's just like all these margins, Wolves are always landing on the wrong side of them for whatever reason. It's a shame, really, that they still have not managed to avoid breaking like Derby County's worst points record when they really could have earned quite a few more by this point. But they're just good at throwing games away. Yeah. Okay, Sunderland versus Fulham. Sunderland's home form has been like a pillar of their season, right? But I would say it is looking pretty fragile right now because they have hit some sustained turbulence. Fulham were sharp enough to capitalize on that. For long spells, especially like early on, this game was pretty cagey. You can see attack momentum low from both sides here. Neither goalkeeper was like seriously tested. But structurally, I would say there were some warning signs for the hosts. Angulo and Jocelyn were like holding off the width. They were pushing high. The midfield occasionally did feel stretched because of that, and then Mukiele went off injured, and so the defensive balance became even more delicate as well. Still, I would say Sunderland created the clearer openings before the break. I think it was Mundell who curled wide after Gertruida gave him a line-splitting pass. Angulo blazed over the net when he really should have tested Bernd Leno a bit better. Of course, Jimenez scored twice for Fulham between those two chances, but on another day, it might be 2-2 at that point rather than 2-0 to Fulham. That is the underlying issue, though, right now for Sunderland. 3 straight league defeats, and finishing has been pretty poor in all of them. The cutting edge just is not there. Brobbey worked hard, but he was isolated for long spells, and then even when Lefay in the 76th minute, coolly converted that penalty, you sense that like the equalizer would need something very special. It's not like something repeatable. Their system has their system has been faltering a bit at Sunderland in these last few games. For the first time, basically, since they've got promoted, they've been on this like proper wobble here. Of course, they've lost games before, but this is a long stretch of that for them in terms of this season, anyways. In the context of this season, all I can really say is they didn't look great after this, but they did look better when Xhaka came on toward the end. I'm just saying, this guy seems real important to the team, man. I would just hope for Sunderland that he doesn't get injured or maybe even like leave the club at the end of the year, because that could be a big difference maker for them and not a good one. Anyways, Fulham, by contrast, they were calm where it mattered, did not control the game like completely at any point, really. The first half, honestly, was just as flat from Fulham's side, but once the match opened up, they showed that quality in both boxes. Jimenez's opener was like pure striker's craft. Subtle movement off his marker, sharp contact into the bottom corner. He also had that penalty, which was, again, very clinical. And more broadly, I would say that his presence just really kept things together for the offense. He occupied Ballard constantly. He was pressing well. Around him, there were also more encouraging signs with the other players. Bassi was aggressive. Wilson and Iwobi as well, combining really well. It was good from Fulham. Like all around, just good on the attack. Even their defense was pretty strong as well. Sunderland had moments throughout this game, as did Fulham, but Fulham just had conviction, whereas Sunderland, during their best spell, basically, at like the start of that second half, didn't take their chances, and they ended up conceding 2. So between like failing in some key offensive moments and switching off at key defensive ones, the margins unfortunately just did not work in Sunderland's favor here. Okay. That'll take us to our second last game, and maybe the most anticipated one. Tottenham versus Arsenal. This game was just all over the place for this Spurs squad. I'm going to put up, I have this snapshot from the 21st minute. We see, this is just one play, but this is something that happened a lot in this game. We see the ball turned over by Tottenham. Arsenal are just immediately going for goal. This is Gyökeres here, I think, who gets the ball. He does get the ball further along. Paulinho cannot cut it out. And the one who saves Tottenham here is actually Bissouma here in the center. He is a midfielder. He's playing way back here. That's because in Tudor's system, you have this back 3, but the left and right side defenders, they tend to push up pretty aggressively and they can line up with the midfield. That way, everyone's spread out. There are passing lanes. But if Spurs lose possession, there is loads of space behind them with which to counter, and those left and right defenders are no better position to cut that out than the midfielders are. And unfortunately, also, Tottenham's players have not been that great or that intense this season, so that situation can happen many times, and it did many times in the first half. Also doesn't help that your back three for this game was Van de Ven, Dragusin, and Paulinho. It's not going to work out too well. Maybe with Romero, you'd have had a better time. So, I think lots of people will be saying as well that Tudor's system, this back three, does not quite fit Tottenham's personnel, especially their personnel right now, given the injuries and suspensions they have. And I would agree. If you want to see how much pressure they were under as well, this is the momentum graph for SofaScore for just the first half. I mean, like I could show it here. You can see. Actually, doesn't even matter if I show this image. Like I can show the second half too, and you can see it wasn't much better. But I took that photo basically, this one here, to just send in, I think, our Discord GC, because it was like, wow, just look at that. But what you can see as well, their one decent moment of momentum in the first half is a goal. That would be this moment right here. Admittedly, a lot of this was down to just a big mistake from Rice, where at one point he was at the corner of the box. He was only facing Xavi Simons, and he basically played himself into this 1v2 against Simons and Kolomoani. Credit to Kolomoani, he gets that ball immediately, finishes it well. For Arsenal, surely so frustrating that all this offensive work and one error has undone it, basically. But this is only the first half. So what do they do now? Basically what they did against Villa. Ramp it up for the second half, and Spurs just could not handle it. Again, Spurs got like one good chance the whole half, or maybe two. I think first was the disallowed Kolomoani header, which, yeah, I honestly have to agree with the Tottenham fans that was a dive in the box. But past that, it's just Richarlison's attempt. The one after Arsenal had already scored their third. Richarlison, I think he nutmegged Raya clears it off the line. But even if he scores that, I would be doubtful that Spurs could find an equalizer. But when you don't score that, well, now the game's just well and truly gone at that point. It is just a thorough second half beating from Arsenal. And I've seen a lot of discourse lately about Arsenal, how they're like a defense-first team. They don't take much risk in the attack, don't dominate teams like City and Liverpool did before them. They want those one-goal wins, right? Admittedly, I also thought they might go for one here too. But clearly, as they showed here as well as in the Villa game, which is really the last time that people had any significant expectation of a screw-up from Arsenal, they can go crazy with scoring. They very much have that ability. And what do you know, in this match and the Villa one, it ends 4-1. Arsenal can do amazing things offensively, and they need to try that more, I think. I would say they really held themselves back at the end of like the Wolves game, the last one, where they started time wasting pretty early on, didn't keep enough offensive pressure going the other way. One or two mistakes plus banger goals from Wolves took 2 points away from them. But I think there's an enormous value proposition for Arsenal to just take some more risks than when they're like 1 or 2 goals ahead, try to truly put that game out of reach. And maybe a bit paradoxically, in spite of that added risk, I believe doing that would secure them this title. As for Tottenham, well, West Ham and Nottingham have some work to do. But if you guys don't get your shit together as well, you'd best prepare for the championship next season. Seriously. Oh yeah, and lastly, that's going to bring us to Everton versus Man U. And this game, honestly, never really found rhythm. It's kind of, like you can see, Man U has attacking momentum. It's not that much. Again, I feel like this isn't quite reflective. This first half is honestly just really stale from both teams. I think Everton had like a little bit of intensity at the start. I know Barry like charged down Lemons basically inside the first minute just to try and set the tone. Aggressive, front-footed. But for large stretches, I would say, like, even though you see United has the attacking momentum, they weren't outplayed. Just this first half was really scrappy. That's the thing. And it was short on attacking quality from both teams. Defensively, though, Everton were good. They were compact. Garner filling in at right back, Branthwaite shuffling across. It wasn't pretty, but the line held. And after the break, I would say they improved. Njai grew into the game. Dewsbury Hall and Gay pushed a bit higher, and Armstrong really should have tested Lamens more seriously when the ball broke to him. That was a big opening. Unfortunately, not taken super well. But I think the issue again for Everton, and it's not unlike other teams like Sunderland at the moment, was cutting edge. Keane's long-range effort forced a strong save from Lamens, for example. That was pretty decent. Everton had like a barrage of corners as well, and then those didn't really do much. That's the thing. So you had the occasional chance, like again, like Keane's shot that was pretty good, but a lot of those chances just were falling wayward. They became like hopeful deliveries. They were not well crafted chances. Moyes will probably say the performance was competitive. I think that would be fair, honestly, but competitive is not going to be enough here because you have to deal with Carrick voodoo magic, the mandate of heaven. Right now, Everton are basically just like hovering. They're not bad, but again, because of that clinicality or lack thereof, they're just not quite good enough, I think. Whereas United, on the other hand, they won this in a very Carrick way. They didn't dominate the game for any extended period of time. Their play wasn't fluid. In fact, like I said, for that first hour or so, it was pretty blunt. Too narrow, too static. Fernandes was dropping deep and then just like throwing his arms up because there were no runners ahead of him. It wasn't great, really, the attacking from either of these teams to start off this match. But then Šeško came on, and yeah, the goal was very simple but very ruthless. Everton, they committed their bodies forward. Cunha picked up that clearance deep, switched it quickly, and Mbeumo isolated Keane, used his pace, squared it to Šeško, one touch, clean finish. It was literally like the one properly executed attacking chance, like where I can say that all throughout the pitch, when that ball is getting across, it is being played along well. The only chance of that sort. And it worked. It was enough. From there, it was just like you need some control for those final few minutes. This is where Lamens deserves real credit, claiming corners, punching under pressure. That fingertip save from Keane. He took the chaos out of the box whenever Everton was trying to manufacture some. And the way that a lot of Carrick's games have gone with these somewhat late winners, I guess this one isn't quite as late, it's 71st. You have these tense minutes of where like good defending is rarely necessary. And it is such a blessing for United to have not just a competent goalkeeper now, but a pretty good one just overall. So no, not a classic win by any means, but it's 5 wins and 6 now for Carrick. And as unsure as the games may seem at times, the whole process does generally seem pretty sustainable. I mean, Šeško's just been like playing off the bench, and he's banging in goals often. Now, if he gets a place on the starting lineup, I think the opportunities expand a lot more for these guys. Just a thought, Carrick. Just a thought. Yeah, that concludes match week reactions for match week 27 of the Premier League. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon for another set of predictions for the next match week of the Premier League here on the CoDaKrew. Have a good one.